Welcome back, listeners, to the BizBlend podcast with your host, Sana, where bold business meets real world execution. Now, today we are peeling back the curtain on a topic that every founder wants to crack: scaling without sales hires. And listeners, my guest, he's a powerhouse. He's a global sales leader who has scaled three companies past $75 million, dollars, a Forbes contributor, and the brains behind a coaching practice that's helped 10 plus businesses hit seven figures in under 2 years. Yeah. And guess what? All without a traditional sales team. Today, we are talking about how he used a commission only model and a brilliant framework, which is called the four C's of accountability, to scale his firm and help over 1,000 entrepreneurs do the same. So, if you have ever wondered how trust, execution, and systems could replace the grind of micromanagement, this episode is going to be your blueprint. And listeners, I'm introducing my guest, Don Markland, to all of you. So, Don, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really excited for this conversation.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on and for all the work that you do and the content you provide. I think about when I started my very first business, uh, we didn't have podcasts like this. We didn't have, resources like this. We had to go to these things called libraries. Um,
Yeah,
and we had to read and we had to figure out so many
correct.
things. And now, the content you provide and so many others like you, it's just invaluable.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that shout out, Don. And yeah, you really did take me to a nostalgia trip, a trip down the memory lane about libraries because,
Yeah.
my goodness, oh boy, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah, you don't use them anymore, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so Don, to begin with, I mean, this is now because I am from the sales and the BD business development background. So to me, it's kind of quite interesting. Scaling a seven-figure business coaching firm without hiring a single salesperson, um that really sounds, it's kind of counterintuitive in today's sales heavy startup culture, especially when we talk about startups and companies, early stage companies. So why did you bet on a commission only model instead of going, full blown sales model?
Great question to start out with. And I think even before I get to that, and then I will answer that, I come from the same environment of a sales and marketing background, and I fully believe that for any business to grow, you have to really obsess over sales. You have to think about it and obsess over your sales process
Yeah.
all the time. In our business operating process that we install in companies when they hire us, we call it SCORE, SCORE, and S stands for sales and marketing. It's the first thing we have to automate and get right. And part of the reason we didn't, hire maybe a traditional sales force was
Hmm.
because of two things. One is because we're in the business coaching world, which meant I needed a more consultative based approach and a more emotion based approach that you might have in SaaS or in other environments where was my background. And secondly, in 2025, in today's modern buyer, they are
Hmm.
extremely resistant to sales or sales environments because they're so
Right.
educated, they're so smart about it. And so they can see when techniques are coming. They can see when people are trying to be salesish. They can see when those things are happening and they shut it down really quickly.
I agree with you. I agree with you, especially those, if I remember those, oh my goodness, the cold calls. I mean, now people know, okay, where exactly the conversation or the call is going to lead. So that really turns out to be sometimes defensive or just the number getting blocked. So
That's right.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And apart from me, what was the initial reaction from people when you introduced this? I mean, did you face skepticism or pushback from your peers, your mentors, or advisors?
I mean, everyone had strong opinions on what we were gonna do wrong, I'm sure. Um, but I knew my background. I knew my background in sales, and I knew that if through the right marketing and automation and journey, we could
Mm.
pre-sell a lead um, pretty significantly. And so, um, like for example, we just recently acquired a company called Numi.com. They're the largest coaching platform in the country where coaches can come and get listed and grow their practice on there. And the reason why we're doing so well for after this acquisition is because immediately I installed a lot of the same things I had seen at Accountability Now, where when people come in looking for coaching, we do a lot of pre-sale work and a lot of automatic pre-sale work so that people want to buy by the end of the process. So they don't need a hard salesperson at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree because there have been such scenarios where I personally believed that instead of, going like doing cold outreach, I mean, I do not uh, believe that cold outreach is dead. It is definitely effective. It's like the, sales 101. It's the basic thing. But, in certain situations, it's more about, how kind of more towards marketing, more towards the buzz generated, more towards the value that, let's say, a coach is involved there, or you are coming from more of a service perspective or providing any kind of expertise. I think people would come to you if they realize that, okay, this particular person has that expertise, they are providing value, and in fact, for in terms of the pricing and stuff also, so they wouldn't bat an eyelid if they talk about the pricing and stuff, which is, I think, one of the most crucial aspects of any sales conversation.
That's correct. And, it's easy to say as a salesperson or a sales manager, um, you know, sell the value, sell the value, sell the value.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's really the way we teach sales and the way that we emphasize this is that it's not about the value, it's about solving the emotional need. That's what it is. Because at the end of the day, you don't decide what's valuable to your customers. They do. They're the ones who decide what they like and what's valuable to them. And so, and in many respects, you don't have a say over this. I'll give you an example. One of our clients, they're one of the largest custom home builders in Florida, and we work with them and we work with them on a business coaching perspective where we help them learn sales and help them, kind of grow their business. And
Okay.
in teaching sales with them, they said, here they've got this sales team of 150, 200 people, and
Okay.
they they are always talking about, well, the value of our homes is we have custom this and we have warranties on this and we have all these things. And at the end of the day, their customers didn't care about any of that. All the things that they're saying are differentiators, nobody cares about. And
Mhm.
so we helped them by helping them not sell the value, but sell to the emotional need of the customer and why the customer is making a decision now. And when you focus on that, you'll be successful.
Right, right. That really makes sense, John. And then okay, now let's talk about how we can make this a possibility. So, uh, are there any kind of specific systems that you needed to have in place to make a commission-only team not just survive but actually thrive, actually perform?
Yeah, you have to have a really great machine underneath them that is full of a lot of automation and what we call hype activities. So it is, texting and emailing and doing all these things to leads or potential leads that are warming them up to the point when they're ready to speak to a salesperson
Okay.
so that salespeople aren't wasting their time on things that aren't effective.
Hmm. So it's like
So
the
we have a very, very well managed system where
Mhm.
if a lead comes in from social media, it gets a whole series of activities before it warms up. If it comes in from Google, which has higher intent, it has a whole series of activities to warm it up and get them ready. If it comes from referral, and we have custom processes for every type of a lead that could come in because they all require their own nurture sequence to get them ready to be fully qualified and ready to buy.
Hmm.
And too many business owners, especially your listeners who are entrepreneurs and startup, they're just
Uh-huh.
trying to create one nurture path for
Uh-huh.
every lead that comes in. And that just isn't true. They all have very different paths, and you have to manage to that path.
Hmm. Hmm. And Don, any one key system, like any CRM setup or maybe or any AI driven model that, for example, these are the warm leads. Now they are at the bottom of the funnel, and only, let's say, out of 100, these are the 25 interested leads. You need to only contact them and focus on them only. Do you have any specific uh, model or system at place? I mean, if you can give example of
Yes.
in.
Yeah, we have so we use a system, it's a white labeled CRM that we call Engage 360 that's built on the Go High Level platform. And the reason we did that was because it made automations really, really easy to build and easy to track. And there are three components of your automation system that every single business needs to employ. Even in the medical space, every single business needs to use this. Number one is what's called ringless voicemails. This is where you can put a voicemail that'll automatically drop on a cell phone. And
Mhm.
we use ringless voicemails constantly and all the time because it creates a very nice one to one type relationship. It's wonderful.
Okay.
Number two, um, you need to have some sort of smart routing in your email or text chain. So if during the conversation, like let's say you set it up through automation, so you're getting a couple of texts as somebody fills out a form or downloads a lead magnet, you
Mhm.
need to have some sort of if then kind of configuration that if you're leading them down a certain path, you're going to warm
Mhm.
them up and move them towards a conversion. And if you're not, if they're showing behaviors that they're not ready to buy, you move them down a different path that gets them hyped up and emotionally ready to buy. And when you can build those two things, that's that plus ringless voicemails, that's important. And then the third one is video. Video is so important. I'm just surprised at how many businesses still don't use video all the time. We send videos constantly to our prospects, and we do that because we know video is engaging. They're watching it on their phone, and it
Mm.
helps them feel more connected to us.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And these are like the marketing videos or, just like a little of information related videos.
No, it's much more personal than that, right? We've created, dozens and dozens of very personal type emails. So,
Mm.
like,
Like,
if somebody clicks on a lead magnet or if somebody answers a certain question in the text chain, they're going to get a video. They'll get a video from me that just says, "Hey, that's really great that you wanted to hear more about that or that you answered that way. I just wanted to send you this video. Tell you thanks for letting us engage with you." And we're always doing things to just keep them more, I guess, close to our process and get more emotionally ready to buy.
absolutely. I think this particular technique gives that human touch,
That's
which
right.
need.
In a world of AI, it can be hard. And we do use AI for a lot of things, but we don't
Mhm.
hide it. Too many companies are trying to mask AI and make it look like they don't use AI. And that's a fool's bargain. because if they find out you're using AI, they lose trust immediately. So we actually lean into it and say, "Hey, I'm an AI chatbot, or I'm this, or I'm like," we don't hide it, and we get better engagement.
Hmm. I agree with that. I agree with that. Okay, now let's talk about the four C's, of course. So, Don, what are those and how do they actually show up in day to day business?
The four C's are because we believe that accountability is kind of everything in managing your team and managing yourself and managing your company. And
Mhm.
so, uh, it starts with this idea that we all struggle with our relationship with accountability. And we struggle because we don't really know what accountability really is. We just think we do. And too many leaders are out there saying things like, you need to hold that person accountable and hold that
Mm.
guy accountable. And they do that, particularly when somebody screws up. And that is not what accountability is. Accountability doesn't just arrive when somebody messes up. Accountability is owning all of your choices, good and bad. And I want somebody to be held just as accountable when they do something well than when they mess up. I want you to say the words to yourself. When you do something really well, when you crush it, when you get a deal or when you grow something, I want you to say to yourself, I'm going to hold myself accountable and I did a great job. And it'll feel weird because you're not used to holding yourself accountable when you're doing really well. You usually
Yep.
miss that. And so we we do it a little bit differently than we're always trying to get people to one, own all their choices. And then the four C's really breaks down to four simple things to always remind yourself. Number one, critique success, which is do it better every time. Right. So before you pat yourself on the back, always stop and say, how could I do it better? The second one is correct failure. So we encourage risks. We don't punish them. We want people to take risks. We want people to take mistakes. I mean, Picasso, probably the world's most famous painter in history,
Yep.
painted over 1,100 pieces of art and is only known for about 30. And and so think about how many failures he has in his life to only have 30 be successful. And he's considered the greatest of all time. You can do similar numbers with Mozart or Beethoven, and you start to see just you need to take more risks. You need to fail a lot more. The third one is celebrate growth. Whenever you do something hard, whenever you really push yourself to do something that you're uncomfortable, that is the time to celebrate like crazy because that encourages more growth and more risk. And then the last one is crush mediocrity, which is, uh, this philosophy around when you have something holding you back or a vice or something, you crush it
Mhm.
with all fierceness that you can.
Mm. And thanks for sharing that, Don. First of all, and out of these, four C's, like, and most frameworks when we talk about them, they sound great on paper. Um, but the one that you said right now, um, it seems built for the real mess of execution, because that's where most of these strategies fall apart. Whether it's the business model or any growth model for scaling and all that stuff. So I really like that. And how do you train or onboard new people into this framework, especially when they are not full time employees, and especially when they
Yeah.
would feel a bit overwhelmed?
Great question. A
Mhm.
super smart question. And the way that you do that is if something is important to your company, if something is an important value to you, you need to talk about it every day. So we talk about it every day. We talk about it in our huddles. We talk about it. We reward people when we see them demonstrating it and we label it. Somebody's critiquing success or taking a risk. So they're correcting failure, right? They're just getting better even though they failed. We call it out and say, hey, great example of correct failure. Nice job. That's what we reward in our company. Not just did you hit quota, but are you living the values of our business? And if you are, we want to reward that. If you are, we want to call it out and say, great job.
Of course.
That's how you instill these things in any business. Too many companies, get a bunch of values and they list them out and then they never revisit them. We talk about them every day, every week, no matter what.
Hmm. That's I think it's something like now it becomes a part of the culture of the entire workforce of
That's
or the
right.
company. Yes. And Don, talking about the work and the coaching that you do, especially with entrepreneurs. Now you have the numbers are really impressive. You have helped over 1,000 entrepreneurs replicate this. So from an observation point of view, have you seen any patterns or traits in the ones who succeed with your model versus the ones who could struggle?
Another good question, right? It's easy from a coaching perspective to say, the person's got to be ready to learn. In order, I can't change anybody, which is true. At
Mm-hmm.
the same time, the role of a coach, my job or my company's job, is to get people to learn. And and so the biggest pattern that we can't change is they've got to take the first step. They've got to sign up for the call and then say, okay, I want to change my business. I want to change my income. I want to change our trajectory. And Tony Robbins always talks about that's the great 2%. Only 2% of people will make that first step. And this is probably good advice for all of your listeners because many of them have tried working with a business coach or tried those things, and it's struggles because they don't get maybe the results that they wanted. And if you're not getting the results from your business coach, then fire your business coach today. Like exit that relationship instantly because you should see an ROI with your business coach in 90 days guaranteed. It should be helping you, and even if they're getting you to do things you never thought you would do, that's the role of the coach. That's what they're supposed to do, and that's why it's such a great investment.
That's bold. That's really bold. Great. So before we wrap up, Don, if our listeners they would like to further connect with you and explore more about the four C's framework and the other, strategies that you apply and the resources that you share, what would be the best way?
The best way is we're very active on social media, executivecoach.don. You can find me and follow all of our content there. But then also, if you're trying to either get a business coach or you are wanting to be a coach yourself, come to newme.com and sign up as a coach. You can get a free listing, and which will help you grow your practice. And or you can look at any of our other offers. But every single person can get a free listing today, or you can find any type of coach on there if you need to hire a coach. We're the number one platform in the world.
Awesome. That's really great. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes. And Don, thank you for this masterclass, whether it's sales or it's the way of doing business or, talking about the culture. This was really a very, very crucial conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And to all the listeners out there, if you have ever felt like the only way to grow, is to grind harder, this episode, I believe, is your permission to rethink it all because execution doesn't need to mean exhaustion. Trust and accountability can be your biggest levers. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for tuning into BizBlend. Do make sure to check out all the resources provided by Dawn. I'll have all the links in the show notes. Until then, I'm your host, Sana. Keep blending brilliance with bold moves. Thank you.